Quaker Earthcare Witness, as you may know, is a network of friends, largely throughout North America, who are passionate about earth care. And we exist to support and inspiration. I can share something that is sort of boring, perhaps, or inspiring, perhaps, which is our vision and witness statement. We're called to live in right relationship with all creation, recognizing the entire world is interconnected and a manifestation of God. We work to integrate into the beliefs and practices of the Religious Society of Friends the truth that God's creation is to be respected, protected, and held in reverence in its own right, and the truth that human aspirations for peace and justice depend upon restoring the Earth's ecological integrity. We promote these truths by being patterns and examples, by communicating our message, and by providing spiritual and material support to those engaged in the compelling task of transforming our relationship to Earth. Quaker Earthcare Witness has been around for over 30 years. We began with the name Friends Committee on Unity with Nature. And 30 years ago, there weren't that many friends who recognized earth care as a spiritual concern. To our chagrin, and yet in some ways, the worsening crises on Earth are causing increasing number of friends to ask, what can I do besides recycling and driving a Prius or an electric car? And Quaker Earthcare Witness seeks to offer friends some answers, as well as to encourage collaborative efforts to listen deeply and live with integrity. So we're really looking at earth care as a spiritual concern. You know, there are wonderful groups out there doing the good work, such as the presentation that was just before this one about our work in Olympia that is working from a political angle, as well as FCNL, of course. And that's essential. And then there are people in the streets, and that's essential. And there are people doing things very privately in their own homes or meetings or communities beyond their meeting, and that's essential. On a practical level, Quaker Earthcare Witness is really looking at earth care as a spiritual concern and looking at earth care as a spiritual transformation, consistent with the continuing revelation that there is truly that of God in the entirety of the living world, and consequently for our need to act accordingly. Many of you, I hope, are aware that North Pacific Yearly Meeting has been seasoning a minute on earth care that articulates this spiritual relationship and encourages friends to consider that we can answer and need to answer that of God in the entirety of the living world. What's wonderful about being part of Quaker Earthcare Witness, and I've been on the steering committee this round since 2016, and I served on FCUN steering committee in the 90s for about 5 years as well. But this round, you know, I mean, there is increasing concern, and there for good reason, of course, and there is, increasing engagement. We tell stories. We tell stories of what friends are doing and how they're growing. And this can be really inspiring. The stories are told on our website. They're told in our quarterly newsletter, Befriending Creation. And I just want to get a quick show of hands. How many of you have ever seen an issue of Befriending Creation or read it even? Not asking if you've read it, just if you've seen it, great. And your monthly meetings can get this, and it's of course available electronically as well as in paper. And also, we have a program called QEW Presents, which I will go into a little bit later. I first began attending Quaker meeting in 1986, and I will say that one of the principal reasons for my convincement was how I already recognized that there was that of God in all life spirit or in all creation. And it seemed to me that saying that there was that of God in all you meet, which were Fox's words, all I meet isn't just humans, right? I meet the earthworm and I meet the mosquito and I meet, the fuchsia and the western red cedar and so on. So, and I also recognize that our testimonies could be applied and need to be applied to the entirety of creation and the living world. So, but throughout our history, this has been known. And William Penn, despite enslaving people from Africa, was well aware of the presence of the Creator in his creation. From his work, Some Gifts of Solitude, he talks about the world wearing the mark of its creator, whose stamp is everywhere visible, and the characters very legible to the children of wisdom. And it would go a long way to caution and direct people in their use of the world, that they were better studied and known in the creation of it. For how could man find the confidence to abuse it, while they should see the great Creator stare them in the face in all and every part thereof? Here is man in ignorance of himself. He knows not how to estimate his Creator, because he knows not how to value his creation. And I've been familiar with most of that quotation for a long time, which I've just put in the chat. But the beginning and the end parts I just found them when I was working on putting this program together. So I'm going to share more about that soon, but I'd like to first share this Quaker Speak video with you. It's about a 10-minute video, and it features Shelley Tannenbaum, the General Secretary of Quaker Earthcare Witness, who's at Strawberry Creek meeting, Haley Hathaway, our communications coordinator from Santa Fe now, monthly meeting, Beverly Ward, who is Southeastern Yearly Meeting's Field Secretary for Earth Care. Southeastern Yearly Meeting is the only yearly meeting, I think, it's the only one I know of, which actually has an Earth Care Field Secretary. I mean, yeah. And Beverly is also SEYM's representative to QEW, and the fourth person in the video is Barb Adams, who is Baltimore Yearly Readings rep to QEW. So I'm going to start this video. Go over here to share screen. And go over here to full screen. And okay, everyone see that? This woman on the that's Haley. All right, let's go back here and go.
When we talk about the need for a spiritual transformation, what we're saying is that what we're seeing in the world is a result of a crisis, of us being so separated from the land and from each other that we poison the food that we eat, that we steal water from the future generations, that we destroy the things that are literally giving us life. The spiritual piece is working toward right relationship with the land, with the planet, and trying to reconnect in a way that we've lost.
Our species is challenged with an inflated sense of itself. That challenge has gotten us into a lot of trouble, and we've involved a lot of other species in our trouble.
We are living in unprecedented times when it comes to the ecological crises we're facing. We are seeing problems related to climate, related to biodiversity, related to ocean health, related to soils. The list goes on and on. We've never experienced anything as daunting as this, and it's going to impact, it is already impacting everything we care about. All the concerns we carry, peace, justice, environmental justice, it's swamping everything else.
It's a loss of connection. And I think that can take be a pathway that's a spiritual loss, but also a physical, emotional, mental, psychic loss that creates, I think, a lot of dissonance in humans, individually and collectively. And I think we see the evidence all around us. As Quaker Earthcare Witness, we look at the changes that we need to make as individuals, as a society, from a spiritual place. Because what needs to happen is that we need to understand our role as humans as being part of nature.
Quakers have traditionally valued peace and justice, and that has been our public witness in the world. That's what we're known for. I see the environmental crises that we're facing as not separate from that, but as completely intertwined with peace and justice issues. Everything that we're seeing and experiencing in terms of ecological problems has a direct link to environmental justice, to justice itself, to the disproportionate treatment of, or disproportionate impact to people, most of whom were the least responsible for causing the problem.
What feels very Quakerly to me, too, is we have so much history of Quakers being active. We have these deep understandings of listening for messages with our testimonies of peace and simplicity and community, our sense of that of God in everyone and everything. But there's also a history of Quakers putting themselves in difficult situations and speaking truth to power. And if that was ever needed before, it is deeply needed now.
Quaker Earthcare Witness, or we call it QEW, is a network of North American friends who carry a concern for earth care, who are passionate about what's going on with the ecological integrity and environmental justice, and we connect people.
It's been around for 30 plus years and has been the organization solely looking at earth care, of course, but now in later years, climate change, climate disruption, environmental justice.
As a person of color, quite often when people hear the environmental movement, they think of something that's very mainstream, white, let's go save, this endangered species, and that's it. And it's a very narrow focus. Why I go to Quaker Earthcare Witness is because of that understanding of how things are connected. Quaker Earthcare Witness is looking at both the science and the spirit. And if you get stuck, you go into worship.
I would say to friends who are wondering, is this an issue for me? It's an issue for all of us, because it's going to take all of us because of the magnitude of the problem. It touches all of us. And as people of faith, this is what we're called to do.
The Quaker Earthcare Witness folks can come to meetings, monthly meetings, yearly meetings, and lead workshops and work in tandem and in collaboration with folks and with monthly and yearly meetings to look at projects and ways that we can all kind of lift up each other and lift up these ideas about how we can change.
if you found this video, you found a way to connect with other like-minded people, and I say that for people to be open. You don't have to become a Quaker to reach out, but there's enough work for all of us to do.
There have been a handful of friends in each meeting who've been passionate about this particular concern for a long time. But I am hoping that whole meetings will get it, will understand what's going on, and feel called to live out their faith. I'm really excited to be part of the Society of Friends that will be helping us shepherd in a world of beauty and harmony and peace and justice, and understanding that we can be part of a much larger spiritual community.
Thank you for watching this.
All right. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Anything that stirs in you?
It's an inspiring
Nothing
video.
in the chat. Thanks. You're welcome. Yeah, that's right on the Quaker Earthcare Witness website. I just want to give you a heads up. The website is really old and it looks it. And we've been working on a new website and we're really hopeful it'll be up in the next several months. So don't be discouraged or alarmed. It's not very user friendly, but there's lots of great material on it. It isn't as easy to get to, but that video was there and you can share it with your monthly meeting and we can help you put together queries and whatnot. Whoops, how'd that happen? Oh, great, here we go. Yeah, so as was stated in the video, Quaker Earthcare Witness can come to you virtually, now more easily than ever. We began a program called, well, we renamed it. It's called Quaker Earthcare Presents, virtual workshops or in-person workshops for your community. And I'm having technical problems here, friends. I'm really sorry. I'm having trouble getting my script and your faces all together. So it's really hard. I can't do a share screen. Here we go. So here's what the Quaker Earthcare Witness Presents blurb looks like. I'm going to do full screen here. And so different speakers, including yours truly, we are available. As I said, virtually, we've been doing so many programs this past year virtually, and it's been great. So we've got How Climate and COVID, and Haley Hathaway, our communications coordinator, who you saw in the video, wrote a piece for Western Friend about 8 months ago, maybe. And it's kind of looking back, look like it's 2050 and looking back at how we got to 2050. So it's that visioning exercise that, what was that woman's name? She and her husband were famous Quakers. I'm totally spacing her name, but it was a practice that she did of, in order to kind of like the reverse of Zeno's paradox, that in order to get to 2050, what did you do in 2021? And then so on. Brad Stalker, regenerative agriculture. Carol Barda lives in Kansas, and she has been doing programs on regenerative agriculture. And at our steering committee meeting last week, she said she knew she was on the right track because the people that she's been interviewing and talking about are in that now famous, or I hope famous, documentary called Kiss the Ground. And if you're at all interested in regenerative agriculture, I have a link to Kiss the Ground that I can share with you. It's a great trailer and it's been made available to nonprofits, and I hope you can screen it in your community and your meeting. Pamela Haynes from Central Philadelphia has written a number of Pendle Hill pamphlets. She talks a lot about economics, but also building heart muscle. Beverly Ward, who you also saw in the video. I mean, I don't need to talk you through this, but Beverly, because she's field secretary for Earth Care for Southeastern Yearly Meeting, has a whole panoply of programs. And Mary Jo is our outgoing clerk. And yours truly is, I've been doing programs on Quaker testimonies. So that's actually just some of them. There are actually more that are posted on our website. Yeah, I see a hand. Nyla, please.
Do you meet, excuse me, do you meet regularly, like for small group meetings? Mary Ann, you're muted. I can't hear you.
It looks like you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you can type it into the chat box. I don't
Okay,
know
I will
what
do that.
But I'm really hoping that Kathy Murphy can stop screen sharing.
I was able
Thank
to.
you.
I was able to hear her okay, Marianne.
So while waiting for Nyla to type her question, are there any other questions about anything that we've done so far?
Can you hear me, Marianne?
Jack, you're unmuted, so I wonder if
I'm
Jonathan.
I'm trying to talk back.
Am I the only one who can't hear what people are saying?
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear what
Yes,
others
you
are
can hear
saying.
them,
Just
or
fine.
yes, I'm the only one.
Yes, you're the only one.
You
I can't
are
hear
the
you,
one.
so you'd have to type it in the chat. I've offered two options. Can everybody hear but me? Yes. Okay, what's going on with my... I'm going to log out and log back in because that has worked in the past. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. Sorry about the technical problems. And I want to see, are you able to meet regularly, like in small groups? You know what, Nyla? I'm going to take that question when I come back. I'll be right back.
And while she's out and coming back, I would just reiterate that this is being recorded. And so to the extent that you speak, you will be in the recording. I plan on editing the recording a little bit to cut out things that are non-essential. So like this part won't show in that recording.
Okay, so Nyla, let me see if I can hear your question.
I would like to be able to, hello, can you hear me now?
Oh, wait, hold on. Why don't I try that? Okay, let's try that.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my God, I have no idea why I can't hear.
It wouldn't be something
okay.
as simple as
I think
your
it's
speakers
this.
on
I'm
mute.
going to try this without earbuds. Now I can hear. Great. Nyla, please, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Can.
She said yes.
I can. And
Okay.
what is your question?
Do you, as Quaker Earthcare Witness, do you meet regularly among yourselves before a quarterly meeting or a yearly meeting?
Quaker Earthcare Witness has friends from Nova Scotia to Hawaii right now, including Alaska, in terms of the steering committee membership. And we have meetings twice a year, April and October. We had been meeting in person twice a year, and because of Zoom, we've been meeting since COVID. We've been meeting on Zoom twice a year, and going forward, starting in October of 2022, we're going to meet once a year on Zoom and once a year in person. So, but our committees and working groups meet more regularly than that. And then we have like a clerks committee called the continuing, no, it's not called the continuing committee. The CCC, whatever it stands for, is kind of the clerks committee, and the clerks committee meets, excuse me, several times a year. Does that answer
Do
your
you,
question?
well, do you see yourself as doing advocacy for providing earth care to various meetings, or you are just doing trainings to get people to raise their consciousness about earth care?
Yes, both end.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're a resource for monthly meetings,
I
and,
see.
you know, we want to raise consciousness, certainly. I mean, there are people who have been involved with this longer than I have, and, you know, it's all needed. So yeah, and if you want to continue the conversation, I'm going to put my email in the chat. I chose my email name because of being exhorted by Thomas Berry to think of ourselves as earthlings. Where do you live? I live on Earth. Why don't I treat Earth the way I treat my home, with the same care and concern? So I adopted Earthling as my email address. So yeah. Does that answer your question, Nyla? Great.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Jonathan, please.
I'm Jonathan Betzall, he, him, University Friends Meeting, Seattle, Duwamish Territory. I'm one of 4 representatives from our yearly meeting to the Corporation of the American Friends Service Committee, which in the last 2 years has begun incorporating climate concerns into the more traditional peace and social justice concerns. And they did this specifically because AFSC was worried that they were losing Quakers. So they started doing outreach to Quakers, and what they heard back from Quakers was climate is important. It needs to be included in AFSC's work. And at the same time, especially some of the staff from the international program were saying the same thing. I especially remember one representative, one of the staff people from Costa Rica, talking about the effect that climate was having on their livelihood. They're being washed away now. It's not a future thing for them, as it is for some of us. So I bring it up here because at the corporation meeting this time, people raised concerns about why isn't AFSC doing more in environmental areas, and they started referring people to QEW. That's the first time I've heard them do that.
That's great.
So what I encourage people in this group to do is, when you hear about AFSC activities going on, make a connection in your own mind to whatever environmental justice connection you can make and bring it up in that action. Okay. At the same time, whatever earth care action you are taking, oriented toward the communities who are being most impacted by environmental concerns, which is going to be pretty much the same people that you're already trying to work with. That's essentially what I have to say.
Well said.
Yeah. Also, I'm part of the group trying to get this environmental minute through the yearly meeting, and let's say it's a challenge. Yeah. And I'm hoping that people in the QEW orbits, will join in the process and help us out, especially at your monthly meeting level. A number of the larger meetings have already discussed the minute, but if yours hasn't, now's the time, because annual session's coming up.
Yeah, Maya Wolf Ostrom and I have done programs, I think, for 4 or 5 monthly meetings so far. And they've been very, very rich. So I encourage you, again, just give me a shout. We just got an inquiry from Eugene Friends. I realize that's not this quarter, but yeah. And actually, Jonathan, I will be very happy if the minute is held over another year, because I think, once we pass a minute, it's like done. Okay, done with that. Bye. What's essential is the conversation and the searching and the seeking the light. So that's what I've been finding with these programs, but that's a whole sidebar. But thank you also for just bringing up the relationship with AFSC, because Shelley Tannenbaum, who you saw in the video, the General Secretary, actually did a presentation with AFSC not that long ago. And thanks to QEW's advocacy, FCNL has been much more engaged with Earth care concerns. And again, you know, the youth are talking about this. When my child, my second born child, went to the lobby weekend about 5 years ago, the topic was climate that they were lobbying Congress about. So, and also with FWCC, we've been engaging with FWCC as well, and with the Quaker United Nations office. So we're reaching into other Quaker groups, you know, very highly respected Quaker groups, to make those connections that you articulated so clearly as being so obvious. And the other thing that we've really focused on in our last two steering committee meetings is racial justice, as it ties to eco-justice. And Beverly was talking about that in the video of how everything's connected. And the very people that AFSC is reaching out to are mostly not white people. You know, they're mostly people of color on this continent and throughout the world. So these issues are completely interrelated. And certainly if we aren't respectful and acknowledging that there's that of the light in people who don't look like I do, for instance, then how can we possibly think that there's that of the light in the coho salmon, you know, or something to that effect? It's this whole kind of, you know, it's all connected. I was saying that we have this UN working group, the FCNL working group. We now have a newly formed direct action working group. And Barb, the blonde-haired woman who you saw in the video, the older blonde-haired woman, is one of the inspirations behind that. And they've described their kind of job description as supporting frontline communities' efforts for environmental justice by mobilizing friends to take nonviolent, creative, direct action, information sharing, and relationship building. We are rooted in our Quaker faith and committed to showing up and speaking truth, selecting direct action projects that are in alignment with QEW. We will raise awareness and the identity of QEW as a strong voice for Earth care and against environmental destruction. So I'm going to put that in the chat. And if you know, you may be interested in participating in this working group, and you don't need to be part of QEW, you know, on the steering committee in order to participate in the work of QEW. And everyone is invited to participate in the steering committee meetings. And it's easy enough to get on the mailing list. You can go to the website, which is quakerearthcare.org, and just sign up to be on that mailing list. What I want to also share with you is a financial resource for your monthly meeting, if you're in a monthly meeting, rather than a worship group. And that's our mini grant program. So these are grants of generally $500 or so to support Earth care related projects of many, many different kinds. And we do this on an international level. So I'm going to share with you this PowerPoint presentation on our mini grant program. Let's go back to this and share screen. And let's do that and this and present. Okay. So there used to be a soundtrack, but somehow I don't actually have PowerPoint on this computer. So this is on a Google thing. So it's not doing this lovely little musical soundtrack. And I was hoping to put one in with it, but I didn't succeed in doing that. So I don't think I need to read this. You're capable of reading it. Whoops. Okay, so oh, there we go. Is that big enough for friends to read? Yeah, great. Up to $500. And as you'll see, it doesn't just have to be your meeting that's doing it. There's at least several examples that follow that where the Quaker meeting joined other community groups in a project, and the mini grant was available to help support that. Okay, how do you do this? There, okay. So I hope most of you are familiar with Monteverde Friends School and meeting. And while Quaker Earthcare Witness is largely populated, our steering committee is largely populated by unprogrammed friends, we do have at least a couple friends who are part of Friends churches and FUM friends. Here's one of the multiple group projects. Here's one in our yearly meeting. Earthquaker Action Team is a group in the Philadelphia area that actually got a New York Times story written about them. Not this project, but mountaintop coal removal project they did about 8 years ago. And PNC Bank stopped funding mountaintop coal removal. Here's another collaborative effort. It definitely works on eco-justice. So I'm sure there are really rich opportunities. I'm hoping that, I'm thinking that maybe we can help support the totem pole journey with a QEW mini grant. There's one in Kenya. This project has saved this college so much money because electricity is extremely expensive in Kenya. And this solar project, of course, there's a lot of sun in Kenya, and I think it's the first ever school in Kenya that has solar, something like that. It's really Jim Kessler, who's a friend from Grinnell Friends Church, was helped put this together, and he was just raving about it at our meeting on last weekend. And here's another Friends Church project, Bolivian Quakers, who of course are evangelical. And a project in Nicaragua. We have a population committee on Quaker Earthcare Witness. Very gnarly topic for all kinds of reasons, but they do good work. I remember when I was on the committee in the 90s, they published a pamphlet called On Taking Away the Occasion for Abortion. And this is a Rwandan project. the mini grants committee is working on getting written follow-up of the outcome of some of more detailed outcomes of how the funding helped these projects and what impact the projects had on the local communities. It's a really wonderful program. I really encourage you to talk to your monthly meeting about it and, brainstorm some projects that would be earth friendly that you could engage with. I'll post a link to the application, the page on the website with the application. You can tell this was not native English speakers who wrote this. It's wonderful. And then, Grinnell Friends Church created this pollinator garden. And, we all need healthy pollinators. So, yeah, so that's the mini grants committee. I'm just gonna get this, oops. Get this.
Hey, Mary Ann, a question.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Jack. Jack?
Mark.
Mark, sorry, I didn't have the screen up.
Yeah. I see a lot of the mini grant programs involve children. Does your group work with children educationally and spiritually here?
So Quaker Earthcare Witness Publications Committee, thanks for the segue, beautiful. We have a publications committee and publish over 30 different pamphlets. They're little trifolds and they're available to your meeting free. They make a great source of conversation for a second hour or program after meeting. But in addition to the pamphlets, the publications committee also put together Quaker Earthcare Education for Children. And it's a whole curriculum for children's religious ed. It is somewhat dated, but it is, and I believe there are still copies available. I should know the answer to that. I don't. If you shoot me an email and remind me, I can get you the answer, or you can, contact somebody who's on, like Shelley, or actually Haley would be the person to contact through the website. So however you want to do it. Thank you. It's a great question, and it's really an essential question. I know that actually at least some of the children's activities in Western Friend are Earth Care related, but that, that's not QEW. And I'm going to take your question and oh, thanks for that link, Jonathan. Jonathan just posted the link to the curriculum in the chat.
Right.
So, the lessons, if not used verbatim, because some of them are dated, can still be wonderful resources. And I'm gonna, talk to our publications committee about that idea. Tom and Sandy Farley, who are members of Redwood Forest Meeting in Pacific Yearly Meeting, were largely responsible for putting together that curriculum quite some time ago. Other questions? Did I post? Yeah, I posted the mini grant thing. Let's see. Worship sharing with FGC and QEW. So one way to connect with friends all over the continent, and actually abroad as well, is with our monthly worship sharing held on the last Wednesday of every month, 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm going to post the link to register for that. And there are generally 30 to 40 people who come up, who attend. QEW FGC monthly worship sharing registration. And the queries are great, and again, it's another way you could engage your meeting and encourage your meeting to attend that, and then have a discussion about how that was, or there are lots of ways to engage friends and to just raise the visibility. I mean, how many of us are in complete despair and feel so paralyzed by how overwhelming the task is? And, there's that famous Margaret Mead quote that you can't do it alone. It's only when we work as a community that we can really solve these problems. I just learned on Facebook, which is kind of a bizarre segue, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs was actually largely attributable, though it was changed by Maslow, attributable to the Blackfeet tribe with whom he spent months in Alberta. But he never acknowledged their contribution, probably because in the 30s or 20s, whenever he published that, to acknowledge the contribution of indigenous peoples would have undermined the scientific credibility of what he was writing. So anyway, I mean, it's sad but true, right? So they didn't, but Maslow is all about the individual and totally leaves out the role of the community, which is what the Blackfeet starting point is. Like, how can you have individual self-actualization without a community? End of speech. Yeah, so the worship sharing. So it's a wonderful opportunity to, keep this topic at the forefront. And another thing that so drew me to Friends 30 years, 5, whatever years ago, is the whole notion of that revelation is constantly available to us. All we need to do is shut up and listen. And yet, I spend more time going la, 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 than I care to admit. Because I might hear something like I'm supposed to build an ark, Can you imagine what that was like for Noah? There he is in the middle of the desert, and God says, you got to build an ark. And Noah's like, first of all, where the heck am I supposed to get trees from? I'm in the desert. And second of all, anybody sees me building an ark out here, they're going to call the men and women in the white coats to come and take me away. Like, you're crazy, So I don't want, but we're called to be ever attentive. So I just want to close. Thank you for being here. We've got 2 minutes. I really like to honor our time commitment. And I'm going to put these queries. Thank you, Jonathan, for that link. Oh, there it is. Beautiful. I saw it in a Medium story, but that's a lot more credibility. But anyway, so these, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Marianne, you said you had a link to the Kiss the Ground film. Do you have that handy?
Yeah, I'll put that in.
Okay.
Hold on, Control. I don't need that. Let's just delete that. Kiss the Ground. Whoops. Oh, I posted it. So there are some queries. Those are the queries, as it says, that Maya Wolf Ostrom and I have been sharing in our discussions with different meetings on the Earth Care Minute that NPYM is considering, and monthly meetings are being asked to consider. Here's the Kiss the Ground link to the website as well as the trailer. And I've got so many resources. So if you'd like my bibliography, I'm not going to bore you with it here, but you just shoot me an email. I'll send you my bibliography. One of my favorite resources right now, which is not specifically Friends, in addition to Robin Wall Kimmerer, there's actually a worship group started at Pacific Yearly meeting every other Monday evening, 7 to 9 Pacific, on worship sharing on braiding sweetgrass. So if you want that, let me know. They're doing an amazing job. They just had their second one. So there's a braiding sweetgrass worship sharing group. Where am I going? But my other favorite resource recently is Emergence Magazine and podcasts. So check them out. I don't know where they're getting their money from. They have a ton of money and they're doing amazing, amazing work in the spiritual connection with Earth and spirituality. And it's astounding to me, the stuff they're doing. So there's, it's really easy to fall into despair, but I'm reminded of Paul Hawkins' book from, was it 2007 or 8? called Blessed Unrest. Right. Blessed Unrest. And around the world, he found over a million local groups doing projects large and small on behalf of Earth. So we don't read about them except occasionally in Yes Magazine and in Emergence now, because the powers that be don't want, because despair is paralyzing. So whatever, enough of that advertisement. Thank you for being here. Go forth and spread the words. Please get in touch with me if I can be of assistance. And why don't we close with worship? And why don't you just leave the meeting as you are led? Thank you
Very inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
very much.